afternoon. I'm Lynette Humphreys, and I'm going to be doing my final presentation for my Business Communications course. The topic that I've decided to speak about is violence in sports. Is violence in sports acceptable? As social media continues to report on what is newsworthy, more and more emphasis is being placed on violent episodes in sporting events. The image being portrayed during these episodes is less than appropriate for viewers either attending the event or having the pleasure to watch the replay of such a spectacle on the nightly news. The most recent occurrence of violence at a sporting event was displayed in the small town of Torbay at the World Ball Hockey Championship. At this tournament, it was caught on tape for all to view the barbaric violence of a Canadian player towards another player on the Czech Republic team. Despite efforts from the referees, they were unable to break up the disturbance and were unfortunately caught in the crossfire. As a result of this event, many questions have come to mind surrounding the implications of such violence in a public sporting forum. Is it appropriate for a sport that should be portraying sportsmanship and team building to surround itself with such violence? What consequences should players face after becoming violent toward another player? I will be exploring my views that suggest discipline should be given to any player that is involved in the physical act of violence towards another. Throughout this presentation, I would like to explore points that offer facts and support my position of enforcing discipline to hockey and ball hockey players who demonstrate violence. The topics I will be focusing on are: what defines violence, and how is this definition applied to a hockey arena? Why is violence treated as a part of the game? Are we teaching our children that circumstances such as these are socially acceptable? Where do law officials draw the fine line of this display of violence being acceptable or it becoming a criminal charge? What defines violence? Violence can be defined as the act of intentionally using force or power against a person, group, or community. The result of this physical force has a high likelihood of subsequent injury, psychological harm, deprivation, or even death in some instances. It is widely recognized that violence is preventable. Using strategies to address the underlying causes of violence can be effective in violence prevention. For each single death due to violence, there are dozens of hospitalizations, hundreds of emergency room visits, and thousands of doctor's appointments. All of this is preventable. We could be saving government funds that are allocated for such resources, whereby these resources could be utilized for maintaining the health of others who are not victims of violent circumstances. Well, some people might be thinking now that yes, this could be true if we lived in a perfect world, but our society is not perfect. I agree that yes, our society isn't perfect, but shouldn't we be responsible to maintain civility in our communities and lives? Shouldn't this also prove to be true in all areas of our lives? Would it be acceptable in our workplace if we maliciously lunged across the boardroom table at a coworker who didn't agree with our ideas? Inappropriate. Would it be acceptable in a grocery store to use our carts as deadly weapons, pushing the other shoppers out of the infamous checkout line? Inappropriate. Is it tolerable for us as commuters to bump other cars out of our path on our way to work in the morning? Also inappropriate. Why is violence treated as part of the game? Fighting in hockey has been a part of the game since the beginning of time. Back in the days when those men without helmets were scrimmaging around wearing ill-shaped equipment, fights often broke out during a game of scrimmage. It seems, although, that fights didn't become as malicious as today. Is hockey itself becoming victim from how society is creating it? Players fight these days with more intent. Is that intent to physically disable another player? Some will suggest that it's part of the game and that removing fighting from a hockey game would be unlawful in itself. We all know that playing hockey involves risks. Those risks can include getting hit by a puck speeding at you 100 miles an hour, as well as getting a body check from behind. Some would suggest that the respect for the game would be lost if fighting was taken out of it. I feel that the focus in a game of hockey should be on the skill of the players, how well they can handle the puck, their speed on a breakaway, or even the skill of a savvy defenseman guarding their goalie. Let's focus on the positive aspects of the game, the sportsmanship, the exercise, the skills, and even the fun. Are we teaching our children that violence is acceptable? I question why violent behavior is accepted in a hockey arena. Is it possible to believe that the definition of violence somehow changes the moment you enter the doors? Somehow, this proves to be true. Not only does the violence apply to the players, but is becoming increasingly popular for the fans to become entwined in vicious brawls in the bleachers. I recall an event covered by the media at a bantam game in Ontario just this hockey season, where there was a full-out fight in the stands between the parents of the children who were trying to have a civil game of hockey. The parents' behavior is very important in the eyes of their child. If they see mom smacking at the lady next to her without batting an eyelash, what message is she sending to her child? The message sent is violence is acceptable, and so begins the downward spiral of making the violent behaviors tolerable, but only in an arena, because that's where people can treat others with disrespect and somehow get away with it. That behavior will then carry forward to the ice, where children who are less knowledgeable become victims and victimized by violence. Children don't understand the circumstances surrounding such behaviors, and unless taught appropriate conduct, will act out when they feel threatened to score that winning goal. We as parents are given the duty to teach our children right from wrong. It is unfortunate that in some cases, children are allowed to display aggression while playing a game of hockey. Some parents will actually encourage their children to take him down, Jimmy, and give it to him. Personally, I have been there and heard such vile comments. It is unbelievable. Violence should not be tolerated in any areas of our lives, our homes, schools, playgrounds, or sporting events. I believe there should be a worldwide parenting policy that enforces the rule, keep your hands to yourself. This also includes any other body part. I know how the mind of a child works. Where do law officials draw the fine line of violence being acceptable or becoming a criminal charge? Ice hockey and inline hockey has a disciplinary body called the International Ice Hockey Federation. It is a worldwide governing body. It includes 70 members, but despite its worldwide authority, the IIHF has little or no control over governing hockey in North America. Canada and the United States have their own governing rulebooks. The National Hockey League, or NHL, is the highest hockey organization for these countries. The NHL has a rule book that outlines the disciplinary procedure for anyone using violence in a hockey forum. This discipline usually suggests penalties, game suspension, and misconduct. One may be inclined to question, is this discipline really enough? When does the law step in to consider sporting violence a criminal offense? The topic of consent must be brought forth when discussing the issue of hockey violence. When a hockey player steps onto the rink, physical contact is expected. A level of violence that is not accepted outside the rink is accepted in a hockey arena. When this physical contact leads to violence that is beyond the accepted norm, most professional sporting bodies have internal discipline measures in place to deal with the incident. In certain occurrences, incidents have been brought to a courtroom where a judge has decided if the act is deemed criminal. Such was the case in the most recent NHL Marty McSorley incident, where criminal charges were laid against the player. The judge has to determine if the act of violence was considered outside of the boundaries of what is typically accepted within the hockey arena. Some may speculate this as being a tough call, or a cut and dry case of applicable criminal charges. I would like to leave you with these concluding thoughts. Many Canadians are right now enveloped in watching the playoffs this season. They look forward to cheering on their favorite teams with big dreams that this is the year that they will win the coveted Stanley Cup. I can't help but question, if the violence was taken out of hockey, would it change a die-hard fan's dedication to their favorite team? I would hope that the fans would still watch for the athletic ability and the fun of the sport. One can only dream that there will be severe consequences for hockey violence outside of the normal playing expectations. For the love of the sport, let's end the violence. I would like to take this opportunity to thank everyone for watching my video, and I look forward to answering any of your questions, and I hope you all have an enjoyable day. Thanks.